if there's any problems that can affect the officers' interaction with the public, we want to make sure that we got every measure in place. So whatever bad incident he or she is having, that they're gonna be professional at all times, or have the courage, or we gonna have a measure to pull them out of service. That's the key.
Brothers and sisters, brothers and sisters, I don't know what this world is coming to.
You're listening to the Black and Blue Podcast, a discussion and celebration of the roles of African Americans and other minorities in U.S. law enforcement. Your host on the Black and Blue Podcast is Dale Peters, a law enforcement professional with over 20 years experience in the business. Hop on board this Black and Blue train of interviews, current events, and pop culture conversations. So get ready. The Black and Blue Podcast is coming at you right now. Hey, what's going on, Black and Blue fan? Welcome to the latest edition of the Black and Blue Podcast, where we celebrate diversity in U.S. law enforcement. My name is Dale, and I'm the host. Thank you for stopping by for another iconic episode. But hey, before I introduce you to today's guest, let me ask you to please click those like, subscribe, and bell icons right down here on my YouTube channel. And if you listen to me on your favorite podcast platform of choice, hey, make sure you rate the Black and Blue Podcast 5 stars. And finally, make sure you check me out on any one of my social media pages for even more content. You can find me everywhere at Black and Blue US. All right, so as promised, I got a real good one for you here today. My guest today, he's the deputy chief of a beautiful community in the Peach State. So Black and Blue fam, let's all welcome to the show, South Fulton, Georgia Deputy Police Chief Eddie Smith.
Hey, Dale.
How you doing, sir?
I'm well. How about you?
I'm excellent. Thank you for coming to the show today. So how's your day shaping out there? I mentioned that you were in the Peach State, which is Georgia. How's everything going in Georgia today?
Everything is well, man. The department is doing well. You know, we have a great group of men and women that represent the department very well. So that's the easy part.
That's the easy part. Where is South Fulton for all of us that don't know?
South Fulton, we're going to be the second largest geographical area in the state of Georgia, next to Atlanta Police. We have right around 100 square miles of real estate that we need to conduct police services in. So we're a very large geographical area. Well, a little over 100,000 residents in the city of South Fulton.
And where is it in relation to Atlanta?
South of Atlanta, we're going to be right around, we're going to butt up to Atlanta. We're going to be around the airport area, west of there, mostly like the southwest part of the city of metropolitan Atlanta. We're very close to, we touch some parts of Atlanta. And matter of fact, we do a lot of joint operations with them. So we're in partnership with Atlanta, East Point, College Park, Fairburn Police Department. So we work well with others. We understand that you get more done as a team.
You said work well with others. There you go. All right. How long you been there with the police department?
Well, with South Fulton, I've been here a little over 7 months. So
okay.
Yeah, so it's been great. You know, we got a very good group of men and women that represent the department.
Where'd you come from before that?
Well, I did 29 and a half years with the City of Atlanta Police Department. So, and that was a great assignment too. You know, I learned a lot about policing and especially community engagement. Atlanta is a very strong department when it comes to community engagement. That's where, you know, we talk about that more than anything else. You know, we used to talk about community-oriented policing, which, you know, that it was thrown around, that word was thrown around a lot, but it was a lot of kind of a community engagement. That's way different, way more involvement from the police. And plus, too, you can develop a lot of outreach from community engagement.
Yeah. Are you originally from the area?
Born and raised in this city, brother.
Born and raised.
Yeah,
okay.
You know, just about all my life, except for the time I was in college and in the military. So back home right after.
All right. And I'm real big on basketball, the NBA, and all that. It looks like although the Hawks aren't in these playoffs, I think Anthony Edwards is from the area. I know he went to the University of Georgia, right?
Bro, I was hoping we was going to pull that off, man, when he was coming through the draft.
Yeah.
I tell you, I'm a big NBA fan. I'm just a little disappointed that the Hawks didn't go further, but they're excited to watch.
Yeah. I'm out here in Southern California, Laker country out here, Laker Nation. And, I know you heard the rumors about Trey maybe coming west.
No, man, we're not going. Nah, bro. We're young, too talented. We probably got another 10 years. Yeah, man. LeBron, he somewhere else, brother.
Right. Well, we let y'all keep Trey. We can get another point guard somewhere else.
Oh, yeah, man. Hopefully we got to tie Trey up, brother. You know that.
No doubt. So you came up in Atlanta PD. Let's talk about your journey a little bit. So you seems like you say you did 29 there. So that's you came in as a baby cop all the way over there. Talk about your journey. What made you want to go to Atlanta? What made you Atlanta PD? What made you want to get in law enforcement in the first place?
Well, I'm gonna tell you, it's something that I tell a lot of young people, especially out of college, where you're looking for opportunities. But I was in Delta Storm. I was sitting up in the tower. I'm a free Charlie, which is a combat air traffic controller. And I was sitting up with a Kuwaiti soldier. This was before Dubai. People don't really understand what Kuwaiti was or is. Their country is been renamed. But I was sitting up there with a soldier with Rodney King, and they had a newspaper, which was a Kuwaiti paper, and they was talking about Rodney King. And he made a statement that I thought was ridiculous. He said, how could you be here serving your country when you have this incident that took place where this man was beaten, 59 strikes or something that he took?
Yeah.
At that point, then it just clicked. In order to make a system better, you got to become a part of it. And that's what led me to that journey.
You got to be part of the solution, not part of the problem, right?
You know it, brother. That's when you have to have that foresight and that forward thinking. Sometimes, if you want to change something, you got to be part of it.
Yeah. So you did your tour, and what branch of service was that?
Army. I was in the Army. Did 4 years.
Thank you for your service. You said that I was in Desert Storm. That couldn't have been an easy time for you.
No, it wasn't. You're looking at one thing that we appreciated at that time was that what that type of difficulty trained you for. Back when you coming in working long hours at the police department, coming over there, you put things in perspective on what you can take and how much you can endure. But two, you understand the pressures of policing coming out of the military. But, going forward as a commander, moving up through the ranks, we had to move away a little bit from that model. And, you want free thinking people. One thing about the military, you had that ingrained discipline, but you also want to have that individual that's going to be a little bit free thinking, coming in with different ideas and different strategies on how to deal with people. So, we get grounded when you're looking at bringing in people to staff your police department.
Right. And let's go back. You said that it was a Kuwaiti soldier that kind of sparked that in your head. How can you be over here serving when what's going on back home?
Thank you.
Yeah, that's interesting because how are we looked at? Especially nowadays, the way policing is, we're looked a little different here in the States, but across the world as well. How do you think that us serving as African Americans in this profession, is kind of changing that narrative?
Well, Dale, I'm gonna tell you, man. One thing I'm proud of my service with Atlanta PD, but one thing I did get to do was travel to Israel with the Chiefs training when I was with Atlanta. We called the Gilly program, where they sent chiefs of police along with high-ranking officials to go over and train abroad. I think I was over there for 17 days. But what I did learn was that, we're viewed positively based by what we've seen and what you endure day in and day out as a police officer, and especially having to deal with the public and have to be patient, understanding, but also you have to have that empathy of understanding what other people go through. But once over in Israel, it was life changing for me. I want to take my wife over there to visit. It was just seeing that, being that I was the only black commander at that time. We went to the parliament, and what I tell my wife is that it was some minorities over there, black family, and they were just intrigued because that was the one day we were in uniform, and that Dr. Freeman, he was he put the class together, and that he said, you take the time to speak with them, to converse with them, take pictures, whatever. Like, man, listen, I'm a police officer. This is what I do. But they haven't never thought that before. But I was very comfortable in the country, but more importantly is that I was well receptive. They received me well, and even when I met one black commander over there, and he was in the Haifa precinct, and that how you see a black and say, wait a minute, this dude is darker than me. Well, I'm bald and he had wavy hair. So and we said, and it was a great conversation to hear some of the things that that he had to do and how he had to persevere through different difficulties to work to his level of rank. But it's nothing that he couldn't handle. The same with myself and other commanders that are in my position. But they, people definitely want to talk about some of the things, the civil unrest, especially coming from Atlanta. Once they figured that out, that was a big conversation that people wanted to figure out and see exactly how do we handle those things.
Yeah, they've got some issues going on. Well, they have for a millennia over there in the Middle East. But now that the conflict with Gaza and the Palestinians and all that, has any of that affected out here in LA? It has. Has any of that kind of shifted and affected you guys out there in the Atlanta area?
Yeah, you always have to. I tell guys, you always prepare for these type of things. Whether you have to, as commanders, I tell them from the lieutenants and above, even my young officers, you need to know what's happening in the world so you can always be prepared. You prepare for the worst. So if it doesn't happen, we'll have a plan in place. But Atlanta does, I'm not in that situation. That they have very capable commanders that can deal with it. Measures in place, tactics in place, strategy in place, to where if it does take place, they'll be done accordingly.
Okay. Yep. Let's talk about your career over there in Atlanta before you came over to South Fulton. What kind of things did you do over there? And what was kind of your favorite assignment when you were working over there in Atlanta? Let's talk about some little things that you did over there.
Coming up during the time I did in the mid 90s, the late 90s into the mid 2000s, 2004 or 5, crack was really truly a drug of destruction within the minority community. Narcotics was a difficult assignment because you saw what type of destruction that it did. But narcotics was probably one of the fugitive unit. Was probably one of my favorite units, because you can affect crime without dealing with that small group of individuals that create majority of the crimes and getting them off the street. Having a great unit, understand that. I started off there as an investigator, and then came back as a sergeant, then back as the unit commander as I worked my way up the ranks. And I tell everyone it's difficult, it's rewarding, but more you have a lot of liability when you're the commander or a sergeant within the fugitive unit. You have to deal with Fourth Amendment rights. Your unit has to be educated. They have to understand. They have to have empathy too. You have to have an understanding that when you're looking for these perpetrators, they're going to have family members, loved ones that's going to protect them. but that don't mean that we won't be respectful. We won't be understanding, and we're going to be professional in the performance of our duties.
Absolutely. So narcotics is one of your favorite things there, and how long were you doing that?
Narcotics, maybe 2 years.
Okay.
One thing I like about Atlanta, once we have Chief Pennington to come in, he was one where I'll never forget it. He had this saying, "Where's my keys?" Because he was planning on moving. He said, "Do not get comfortable in your present assignment for an extended period of time." He wanted a well-rounded police department, and that's my belief. I tell guys the most important element of any police department is going to start with your field patrol officers. Those ones are going to make the biggest impressions within the community. People that never visit the city, they're the ambassadors of everything that we do. They're going to represent positive aspects of a police department in the city. So I tell you, I was the FOD sergeant for years. I loved that part of it, being able to solve problems every day that pop up within doing duty, where you got burglary, vehicle break-in, property crime, truancies, and understanding that a lot goes in. A lot of officers want to try to get promoted or transfer out at the extended period of time, which deservedly so. But it's still an important element that you have to look at. Those going to be that group. Your field patrol officer going to be the ones that's going to affect crime more than any other unit. But just by visible, and you don't have to do anything else but reaching out to kids, reaching out to families, especially want to take care of your children and your elderly. And by doing that, then you have a great foundation.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. So you did that for a number of years. How big is Atlanta, and then the Atlanta PD, and how big is South Fulton?
South Fulton, well, I'll tell you, Atlanta PD, we wrote up somewhere around 2,500 officers there. After fugitive, I tell you, I was the commander over special operations, which was a difficult assignment. It was rewarding also, but it led me to other opportunities.
What was special operations? What was that?
Special operations section, where I had 135 to 140 men and women under my command. I had 7 units. I had the SWAT unit, which I had to take SWAT training because I had to be educated on what those guys do. I had a motors unit, day watch, evening watch, was going to be some of the most professional traffic units of policing. I had my high intensity traffic unit, heat unit, which is going to be a part of our DUI task force. We have auto investigation unit, where they did more accident investigation along the line of death investigations and serious injuries than any other unit in the state. I had my mounted patrol, which was probably, when it comes to community engagement, the tops of anybody I've seen. And on top of that, I think I'm forgetting somebody. I had the air unit, which was also difficult. Helicopter unit. That fuel is expensive, and we didn't have we didn't have the most reliable aircraft of any department, so it was really rough trying to keep the unit up in operation.
Right. And then did you retire out of there, or did you see another opportunity?
Oh, yes. Well, I retired for about 6 months or so.
That's about it, huh?
Yeah, you have these opportunities, and that is why I'm humble. Even though people say I'm good at what you do, but you don't know, man. I just take this as an opportunity. I'm grateful. I look at the men and women that I serve with Atlanta PD and South Fulton. Is that what can I do to develop these men and women to be the best they can possibly be? I mean, not along the lines of policing, but being the best people. See, I don't get into goals where we need to reduce crime, this, that. But honestly, Chief, we're here to develop them, to say, this is what I need you to be, the best person you can be. That means the best father, the best mother, husband, child, whatever that is. And then that'll translate to how well we treat each other, how well you treat the public. And that's what technically leadership is. And I'm going to argue, this is a family, unlike Atlanta was so big, but South Fulton is small enough with about 200 officers, which we got, man. Since I started, I think when my chief I'm working for now, Chief Meadows, which is a great guy, he started, we had 87. Now we're up to about 200.
Wow. Wow.
So in two, we're going to hire another 40 or so. Our goal is to get to 350. But I'm allowed to touch all these officers within a week or so. Able to drop in, they get to see FaceTime. They understand that my door is always open, but that don't mean they can supersede the authority of their command before they come in. You know, you come in, okay, you got a problem. You need to state the solution and what you gonna do before you seek an answer from me. So I want them thinking at that level of doing things. It's all about development.
Yep. Chain of command. Hey, Chief, it's just me and you right here. So you did mention that you're married, but you were retired for 6 months, and then you just had to get out of here. It's probably with the honeydews, and was it all that, Chief?
It was, man. It was. My wife had me pressure washing stuff every day. He is, you know, we've been married now for a while. You know, I'm very appreciative, but she's a very successful realtor with Caldwell Banker, you know, which I tell the guys, my kids are grown. I have 2 boys in law enforcement, 2 daughters that are teaching, doing their thing. So, you know, I'm free to do nothing but think about this job all. You know, I tell guys, I read everything across the email, and I'm going to respond. You know, I expect them to do the same. That's that same accountability and responsibility that I want them to have.
And so you just mentioned that you had two boys that are in law enforcement as well. Now that you are a father and they're in this profession, what's your feeling on that?
Well, at first, you know, I told my wife, you know, they're gonna migrate, but you know, don't come in. Well, I told my son, my youngest, he's policeman with Atlanta, but I wouldn't allow him to come in until I was exiting out. I want him to understand that he need to come in. Don't do things the way I did. Come in with your own path, your own vision, your own views about policing. And I also want him to understand that there's no nepotism, which there is a little bit, but not to where he has to come in and hold his own. The son, he's up in Michigan. He's working for Customs at the north border. So, you know, he's doing well. He's liking what he's doing. So I don't have any, just tell him to come in and have empathy and understanding and being the best version of them when they're doing the job.
Yeah. So basically, you know, seeing you throughout their life had an influence on, you know, what they wanted to do when they got to be of age as well, right?
Yeah, I think so. A lot of guys in my position, children fall into this line of work. So, you know, which is good. You're not gonna get rich, but it's all about having a purpose. A purpose is first, and that should be your life purpose. Also, it's doing more for others.
Yep, service. And you say your daughters are in services as well as teachers. So, you know, I'm sure you're proud of all 4 of your kids, right?
And, you know, 8 grandkids and counting. You know.
Oh wow.
Yeah, you know, every time we die, after that we got to try to make room.
Yeah.
So, but I did my life.
So then So then this opportunity with South Fulton came about. Let's talk about that. How did that transpire?
Well, you know, as I saw it at first, I said, man, it's about that time. You know, I had some other offers that they were good offers, just wasn't South Fulton level. So this allows me to come in and to work with Chief Meadows, but also work with the men and women of this department, allow Chief to go out and do the chief things, and I can run the day-to-day of this department. And that gives me total view of saying where we need to be, how we're looking at crimes. And another thing too is that Chief, he's very visionary. We always looking at policing is expanding. We're getting into this cybercrime and all these other ways of dealing things with technology now. You know, these real-time crime centers. And one thing I tell the guys is that it's not gonna deter crime at all. But what it's gonna do is gonna improve our apprehension rate. And what's happened is that it'll allow us to solve these cases at a higher rate, especially some of these property crimes, dealing with vehicle break-in, but also dealing with some violent crimes also that's out in the public where we have our camera. But, you know, it's all about having the right people. When I was going back to when I was over in Israel, I got to see this real time, is that you have to have the real people watching these cameras, because the camera's not going to catch everything, especially in real time. And what that means is I saw in real time that this one guy, he was walking down and he was in the process of being robbed, and the operator saw it, and she was two officers there, but they. And what that taught me then is that I started looking around the room, and I realized that everybody in the room was female. And I said, wow, okay, I asked the commander, I said, you know, why are there many guys in here? He said, well, women, they have a genetic ability to see things at a 10 times faster than a man could. I'm talking about, they showed me the video. They slowed it down 15 times, slow motion, before I can even pick it up. So,
Wow.
all about having the right people. You can have all the equipment in the world, but if you don't have the right person that's going to be in the place to observe it, then a lot of things you're going to be reactionary. That's what you don't want your system to be, is reaction. And so
Right.
that's what I learned from going over there.
Okay. Yeah. That's some good info that you brought back over here, and you've been able to implement that with your position over there at South Fulton. Talk about the city of South Fulton, and you know how they've received you over there at the PD, coming in as an outsider.
Well, I tell you, the men and women of the department have been great. I want to thank Meadows also for the opportunity. But the city council, the city manager, along with the mayor, have all been very receptive. And I want to thank them also for the opportunity, for allowing me to join their police.
Yep, that's good stuff. Good stuff. And you know, you're gonna be there for what, another 10, 15 years?
Well, I told the chief, I'm here about developing our next group of leaders. And that's what I'm about, seeing who wants their responsibility, who's going to step up and say, okay, Deputy Chief, I see what you have, and I'll pick the ball up and run. That's what I'm looking for. I'm always about that person that's going to do, and that's doing more to serve the community, that's doing more to make us a better police department. That's always they understand that the standards are the standards. Our standards would not be in any circumstances, especially when it comes on the lines of community engagement and how we gonna serve the public. I tell guys right now, we'll never tell anybody no, even if it's a non-police related call. We always gonna guide them to the right place they need to go. Because one thing about it, I cannot stand, well, that's not a police issue. And then two, then we get back to progressive disciplinary action. We're not going to get anybody that way. Then we get back to me and my development of making everybody, make you the best person you can possibly be. You'll never tell someone.
Right. And then earlier you were talking about growing the numbers of the department.
Yeah.
How are you guys doing that? You guys having problems like a lot of agencies across the nation in getting people to want to be police officers nowadays?
I'm gonna tell you one thing that we have with our chief. He's one of those guys. He's infectious when it comes to people wanting to talk to him and join our police department. And the thing that I love most is that we have PATs, and that's going to be our physical agility test. We do them once a month. We're averaging about 40 men and women that's showing up once a month to come out and participate with the possibility of joining this. And I'm honored. And we have a test coming up within a few days. And yes, next Wednesday, as a matter of fact. And we're expecting 45 men and women to come out and participate. That's because people understand that we are strong when it comes to our community engagement. And we're doing that there, but having the men and women come on that we have our apartment, that allow us to strengthen our strength. That means that we have a bike unit that'll be starting up in 2 months. All our new officers will be starting on foot beat. And that's because of I want to develop them. I need to develop this social skills of understanding on how they're going to talk to people, how we going to treat people, understanding that you need to be where you're supposed to be. So it's those things that we got to develop. And that's what we have to do. Some things in policing should never change. And I started off as a foot Atlanta, and my chief, he was in City of Atlanta. He was one of my supervisors when I was there. So he started off as a foot beat. So it's those things that you can learn just by walking a foot beat. And that's what you have to. I told these guys that you have to earn every single position in this department. If you want to go to patrol, you better be a great foot beat officer. You want to be you want to go be a detective. You want to go to some of these other specialized units. You better be a great patrol officer. You better be a great person in respect of all of that. So everything has to come up. It's a program. You want to go through the process, and that's what we're about. We just not going to give you these positions.
Wow, that's interesting that you said, your officers start out on a foot beat before they go to patrol. And, at least my experience out here on the West Coast is, foot beat is usually, in addition to, patrol officers getting out of their cars and walking every now and then, but, a specific foot beat is, usually an extra assignment that, people get assigned to, because they got more experience. They can get out and engage with the community, engage with the businesses and that sort of stuff. But you're saying your officers kind of start there, huh?
Yeah, we started a group that's coming out of the academy in a month or so. I think, no, in 2 weeks. They're going to go to field training for about a month. And then after they finish that ride along process, they start on their assignment. So that's that's another way for two things. We have some officers that may be a part of our permanent foot beat. Those who have been habitual violators when it comes to vehicle accidents. So we have to set that standard. We have to have that accountability and responsibility with the property of this department. So, guys thinking too, driving while distracted. Okay, you had a rear accident. It's sustained. Foot beat, you go. We understand that. There's accountability, responsibility that has to take place.
Yeah. Okay. And are those foot beats in commercial areas or in residential too, or?
Well, what I'm going to do, I told the commanders, if I have to find a place to put them, they don't need them, right? So they're going to have 12 of them or so. We like to put them in residential and commercial and business areas. We want to be able to deter property crime, especially vehicle break-ins. But we all understanding too, the more visible we are, we can drive that crime somewhere else. So we understand that. So we'll look at crime every day. We have to look at the crime trends and the patterns that's going to determine what it. And the same thing with our bike unit. So the bikes are being in about 2 weeks to a month.
There you go. Yep. I'd love to. My department, we had bikes for a little while. Then they took them away. Just it was numbers really. They're starting it back up as well. So that's a great assignment. You get to get out and engage with the community. You can sneak up on things because they don't hear that engine or the cruiser rolling. Yeah, all that.
Well, I tell the guys too, especially when it comes to civil unrest, especially coming from my former fire department, that was a part of our bike response team, was a part of our civil unrest team. So, there's dual purposes, but also too, I want to give officers, you want to have them to have some movement too. You want to I've done a good job in patrol. I've done a good job on foot beat. So there's an opportunity if it's deserved, that, hey, you haven't been coming to work or you haven't been doing what you need to do. And and those things have been documented by your supervisor and your commander, then you may take yourself out of the running for one of those.
No doubt. So, you got things progressing and moving along over there at South Fulton. Talk about, some of the rewards of your position as a deputy chief over there.
Well, the rewards, I tell you, is that I get to work in a great community. I tell guys, I read a lot. I read this book called Changing World Order. And it's a lot of similarities that when you have countries that are changing their world order, where they're improving their status in the world, And that's what I look at South Fulton as. When you have a great city government, the city council, the mayor, the city manager, and then two, you have a great group of people that live in your community. Then the police officer, we can do community engagement where you have great schools, you have businesses where people are moving in. So that makes it really I told guys that's motivating, where you're seeing the amount of people that's coming into our city, that's moving there, that's want to have that South Fulton way of life, the way it's spread out enough where you're less than, depending on what part of South Fulton in, you can be less than 10 minutes from Hartsfield International Airport, less than a 30-minute, 40-minute drive to downtown Atlanta. But you're far enough away if you want to get away from the hustle and bustle of the city. You have that. But the biggest reward is the community. They're great that live there. And it really makes the job really worthwhile. It's the community, the city government, and just how well they're doing with the schools there. I can see why if I had school-age kids, there would be a place I would looking to live. But those factors, that's real reward for me.
Oh yeah. But on the flip side, what's kind of the challenging part of your job now?
The challenging part is that this is a new department. Really, South Fulton, you're looking at a department that's 6 years old. And when you have a department that young, that means that you're investigating. And when you're dealing with homicides, you got to have that seasoned veterans dealing with homicide. And the reason why I say that is that you have to, not only detectives have to be very inquisitive. You got to understand the who, the what, the when, the where, and asking those problems. Then you have to have an urgency on getting to the answer. So it takes a while for an investigator to get there, especially in common homicide. But that's the only drawback, is that they're very new department.
So is the city newly incorporated, or did they have another agency before?
Well, they did. No, it was newly, some of the officers stayed, but then they brought in Meadows. And so he's been slowly, changing the outlook of the department. So
Yeah.
been ready.
Yeah, starting a new department, that couldn't have been easy. That's a whole undertaking right there.
I told him, I said, brother, you came in, but looking at where we are, we've had crime down 5 consecutive years, and we're tracking to be down another year. And that's based off of these guys understanding that we're going to follow the crime trends. And following the crime trends, when you have a strong community engagement, that means you're only going to concentrate on those individuals. It's a small group that's committing the majority of the crime. And if you can concentrate on your game, concentrate on drugs, and then you have a strong community engagement, then the majority of everybody going to be happy. Because they're going to understand that for the community. But then again, too, what I tell guys and I tell the team is that you have to have a great outreach. Going out to a community and not going back is unacceptable. You got to go out, see what their needs are, what they're having issues with, and then you follow that up with your outreach. Okay, we need to get back to a community more than once. We need to, I tell everybody, have a schedule. You need to forward that to me. And so we can constantly be going back. It's not going to be a one-time, that's it, and we out to the next. That's unacceptable. That's not community engagement. Then you're getting back to community-oriented policing. We're not about that. That's not our standards. Our standards is going to be engaged. And we're going to follow that engagement up with outreach.
There you go.
Oh, brother, we seriously doing it, man.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah. A little civics lessons for the viewers and listeners out there. You were talking about, there was another agency out there, at least out here in California, if a city can choose, if they don't want their own department, is they can contract out with a sheriff's department to provide services. And a lot of cities, some cities opt to do that, but they don't really have control over who's hired, who's fired. The sheriff himself isn't really held accountable, other than the money to the mayor and the city council of a city. So you gotta put up the money to make your own police department and that liability, but it's something to weigh. It sounds like South Fulton kind of went that way, right?
Well, they did, and the most important thing too, sheriffs and police are way different. People don't believe, and you have to understand that once you have someone trained to be a police officer, you understand what that engagement is. You understand how to read crime trends and all these things. But more importantly, sheriff, that's a little bit different. That's a lot, on a county level compared to a city level, dealing with those issues that's coming up, that's taking place, and knowing how to control and what elements that it takes to work better with the community. So, wow, I didn't know that was going on. Now that's a little different.
Yeah, it is. It's a little different out here. So yeah, that's California.
Oh
We
yeah.
different. We different. So you were talking about you came up through Atlanta PD. Let's get a little walk down memory lane, as they say, and let's talk about something, because police work isn't always sunshine and rainbows and unicorns and sugar canes and all that. There's been some tough things that we have to deal with as police officers. Talk about something that when someone asks about your career, that comes to mind that was particularly tough, that you had to deal with, that you saw an incident or something that you helped investigate.
Well, I tell you, I've from working narcotics and especially fugitive, is going after some of these homicide perpetrators, man, very
Yeah.
difficult, especially when they're young, when they have no history or no family to fall back on, and I tell them, you have to stay patient, but you also have to be intentional on when you're looking for these types of perpetrators, because they're difficult to locate. And some of the, especially when they deal with homicides, they're couch surfing, but we also have to understand your Fourth Amendment rights also. And I tell guys, when you're looking for a person, do you really want to subject yourself to possibly losing your job or going? Those are things that were difficult. It's like, man, there's no way we to subject ourselves to those type of things. So, but me, I was one that was always involved. So I kept a close rein on what we were doing. So that part of it was it's going to be the hours. Especially when I was the SOS, when we had SWAT call outs 3 nights in a row, when you're standing on your feet for 12 to 13 plus hours. And then you have to say, hey, okay, I know it's a holiday, but I got to go. So, because of someone has to be there to make those decisions. But what it allowed me to see, especially having SWAT units going out on some of these hostage or barricaded gunmen, and one of the worst ones we've seen, I think, where a brother shot and killed his own brother, blew his head off. But but I had to evolve, and that means that I had to get psychological services in to talk to these guys, and knowing that this not some type of John Wayne, stuff you see on TV, but I have to make sure that we're gonna be in the right headspace, not for the department, but gonna be for themselves, their children, and the way they have to deal with one another going forward. It's all about us being better. So that's one thing that I was able, and I'm very appreciative to Atlanta Police for that role. But I did leave a little early on account of it. That was the bad parts of it, seeing some of that. But it does weigh on you responding, because I was there in that role for 4 years.
And it's interesting. I'm glad you brought that up about wellness. Is something different from when I'm about your age there, and seeing the '90s and all that in this profession, and it wasn't spoken about back when we came up. Wellness and all. You had to tough it up, right? And just man it up, right? And but it's a little different nowadays, right?
And on to the next call, and
On to
that's
the
what,
next call. Yep.
but something now, we have to have peer rep groups there, which is very strong. Have a great chaplaincy department that's a part of our department, but we also looking at having a very good psychological services for the officers and their families. So that's one way you want to make sure that if there's any problems that can affect the officers' interaction with the public, we want to make sure that we got every measure in place. So whatever bad incident he or she is having, that they're gonna be professional at all times, or have the courage, or we gonna have the measures to pull them out of service. That's the key.
Yeah.
Supervisor,
Yeah.
sometimes save a person, it's okay to make that decision. The easy decision is not doing nothing.
Right.
You know, that's then you're not a leader, and you're not there for your people.
Agreed.
So sit there and make that decision. And I expect,
no doubt,
yes.
no doubt, no doubt. And none of us are perfect, and people, seem to think, especially in this social media age, that we have to be 100% perfect every time on every call. But we are human; we make mistakes. Talk about a mistake that you learned from throughout your career to kind of inspire others to learn from your mistakes.
Well, I think the bigger thing that you learn from is always self-evaluation. There's been situations that you see that, hey, I could have handled that better. I could have dealt with the situation way better than what I did. And I tell guys, it's okay, long as you can be honest, you tell the truth about it. One thing I tell everybody that you have to be is truthful, trustworthy, and transparent. If you're training those three things, you take care of those three things, you better work your way out of a situation. And I mean, work your way out of it is that you'll be able to do a self-evaluation. And you can also, at that point, you can make the improvements you need to make. It's been a lot of situations in policing that you see throughout, especially when you've had, especially with some of the police shootings that take place. Right, starting with Rodney King, even before Rodney King, and even to the latest one that took place in Minnesota. You have to look at, as commanders, I tell guys, you can't be afraid to have these conversations on where the department is staying, where we stay. The problem is that you have to expect it, that you're going to have a police shooting. You have to. I'll be doing everybody's service as the deputy chief if I didn't. And those things that you learn from more than anything else, you have to look at others and say, okay, this is we stand as a police department. And you're gonna have these conversations even with other deputy chiefs and chiefs where they say, well, the guy shouldn't have been doing A, B, and C. Well, we shouldn't have shot him either, right? So every situation has the results to that. So that's what you look at. Those some of the things that we have to have. Those tough conversations have to be had. And I think too, I don't want to have them, and I do. Okay, we had a shooting. Here's what I saw. And I won't feel, okay, you saw it that way. Okay, now this is how the department gonna see it. Now, do you really want to substitute your family? Okay, he got off, but look where his life has turned. That we don't get into. Okay, yeah, he may be free, but he won't be working. Who gonna hire him to work anywhere? He didn't get a job working. Well, ain't nobody gonna hire him. So we have to have these conversations. People get uncomfortable with it, but not me. It's a part of me making us better.
Yeah. How about on the flip side, when there's a controversial use of force, whether it be a shooting or whatever, tasing, whatever. Police work isn't pretty, but it is justified. But it is justified. But it's still controversial, and there's outcries in the community. What's your stance and your departments on transparency and getting that information out there to allow the public to know that yes, it wasn't pretty, but it was justified?
Well, you have to be honest. That's the part about being honest, right? Was it within your training policy? And did he do what he was trained to do? And what was the elements that led to the tasing of the student? You're going to have these situations that take place. And when an officer involved in a situation like that, you have to look at it to where, okay, he was placed in a situation. The department may have to make a decision that may be controversial, but it may be the best that you have to look at all the factors, all the totality of the incident that took place. And that's the best way you do it, and you stand by that. And you tell your officers that's where you stand uh, along the lines of your policy, the training, and how the officer conducted himself during the incident.
Yeah. Yep. If they were within policy and within the law, then I mean it is what it is. And we gotta kind of explain and let that be known to the community so that these civil unrest and all that sort of stuff don't occur, right? So
Yeah, with civil unrest, but you also have to understand too, in Dillon, Atlanta, when we had the civil unrest, majority of these people they had a right to be there, which we didn't try to stop anybody. We wanted to provide a safe environment. But a lot of these kids that was out that looked like us, they really wasn't there for that type of violence and destruction, right?
yeah,
So you have haters too, and we
yeah,
have to identify them. And you identify them, and once they're identified, then you reach out to their leader, tell them what we're not going to tolerate, and if the laws are broken, an arrest will be made accordingly, and you have to stand by that. But I tell people all the time, by right to protesting and voicing your opinion, we all for that.
yep,
We gonna help you provide a safe environment to do that in. But the other part of it, of destruction of property, no,
nope,
that
that ain't part of it.
no. So we don't mind that part of. We're gonna support you right.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, Chief. Hey, I appreciate the conversation with you today. Hey, before I
Oh
get
man,
you out of here, how about some words of encouragement for anybody that's aspiring to get into law enforcement or become a leader like you one day?
well, this is I tell everybody this, especially not only my kids and young people that want to get into this line of work, is that it's very rewarding. It's a purposeful uh, life. It's one where you have to be intentional about serving the public and then being understanding that, if you treat people right, you're the best person that you can possibly be. This is a great employment, a job, or a career endeavor that you want to take. And the most thing I tell everybody is understanding the standard of your life, the police officer and law enforcement, period. You have to understand that you're going to be judged harshly in some cases, but you also have to understand that you have to live a life where you're going to treat people fairly. I think this is a great way to serve the public. But more likely is, I tell people, is that coming here and doing policing, man, I love it. I love serving the public. I love watching kids that when I was policing 30 years ago that are grown with it. And my memory isn't good as good as it used to be. And say, hey, I remember when you used to come around my neighborhood and doing those things. So that's the rewarding part of it, seeing what these young people have grown up into grown people and they live in great lives. And to be a part of that is it really is.
Absolutely. Yep. Loved it. Love this profession. It's had its ups and downs, and it
Yeah.
will continue to. But it's a great profession, a great honorable profession, and I encourage everybody to, like we said earlier, be the change you want to see. Be a part of the solution.
That is it. That's what got me here. I tell people, hey, really doing the civil unrest. I'm here because of Rodney King. And if you feel that everything was if you can make a change, I think we're glad to welcome you in. And that's what a lot of chiefs we need to get to that part of it. Because these young kids that we're seeing now, they're young. We have them coming in as young as 20 years old when they join the police department.
Yeah.
So we're a great cadet program, and that we want to get them young. If the gangs can do it, we can do it on a positive manner. that we can
There you
have
go.
a life, see what it's like to come in, having some type of structure, and that's seeing what policing is about, seeing us on an everyday basis.
For real, for real. And
You know,
South Fulton is hiring, right?
you know it, brother. I tell you, I am thoroughly surprised on the number of people, the number of phone calls I get on. We have a great social media program in which officers see us all the time, especially when our community, and they are really applying in heavy numbers. And our background in recruitment is very strong. And however they're doing it, I'm very appreciative. So we're in a position now. I think we've reached our numbers for the year. So now we're gonna try to pick the best of the best and bring them into this family.
There you go. There you go. South Fulton, Georgia Police Department, everybody. Thank you, Deputy Chief. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your time with us.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yeah. Talk soon.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
All right, now. That was dope, right? Hey, I want to thank Deputy Chief Eddie Smith for spending some time with us here on the Black and Blue Podcast. I really had a good time, man, and I wish you much success in everything you want to do. If you guys out there enjoyed my conversation with Deputy Chief Smith, let me know by leaving a comment right down there below. And don't forget to like and share this episode as well. I'll be back before you know with another awesome episode with another story with a minority in U.S. law enforcement. But till then, y'all know the phrase, stay black, in blue. I'll holler at you. Peace.
This has been a Maitre D Entertainment presentation.